It's a perfect day for flying kites, which is exactly what the Nibbles children are doing. Wally and Molly watch them scurry around excitedly as their kites bob joyfully in the breeze. Wouldn't it be nice to fly, to ride the thermals high above and to be able to look down on the earth below? Sighs Molly. Wally looks at Molly in surprise. Would you really like to fly? Wouldn't you be scared of being so high up? Oh, gosh, no. I've never found heights to be a problem. I think flying would be exhilarating. And there and then, Wally makes up his mind to grant Molly her wish. Wally starts researching flight. He consults the great works of the famous Leonardo da Mousy. Leonardo da Mousy was a creative genius who lived many centuries ago. He researched flight mechanisms by observing birds and bats in flight, and he went on to come up with detailed plans of how a mouse could fly. He even provided the diagram for making mouse-made wings. Now, Wally has an impressive selection of tools. He inherited most of them from his dad, yet over the years he's bought quite a few himself, for as he tells Molly, you can never have too many tools. If the truth be told, Wally looks at his tools more than he uses them, and Molly isn't sure if he knows how to hold a hammer, yet alone use one. Well, now is as good a time as any to start learning. He spreads Leonardo da Mousy's plans out on his workbench and sets to work. He measures and marks. He carefully cuts. He hammers and saws. Sometimes he hammers his own thumb. Ouch! Ouch! He cries out as he hops around the floor in pain, holding his thumb. Squeak hears the commotion coming from the woodwork room, and she peeps her head around the door. She sees a strange construction lying on the table. What on earth are you making, Daddy? Wings, so your mummy can fly, responds Wally. Squeak looks at the wings with a good measure of skepticism, and she carefully tries to lift one up. Do you really think they'll work? They're very heavy. Of course they'll work. According to Leonardo da Mousy, I should be able to glide most of the way down and will only need to flap if I descend too quickly. Then I'll need to flap like crazy to slow myself down before landing. Squeak is not convinced, and she takes along the first aid kit when it's time for Wally to try out his wings. Don't you think we should tell Mummy? Suggests Squeak. No, keep it a surprise, says Wally. Squeak is worried, and rightly so. She doesn't think that this is going to end well. Wally checks that his wings are firmly secured, and then he takes a running leap off the edge of the cliff. And for a moment he hangs in the air, and then he starts descending. Fast. He can hear the wind rushing past him as he falls faster and faster to the ground. Oh dear, says Squeak as she covers her eyes, too scared to look. Crumbs, says Beans, this isn't going to end well. And Wally tries to flap his wings with no avail. He sees his life flash before him as he rockets towards the earth, and then crunch, he hits the ground. Ow, ow, ow. I think I've broken every bone in my body. I should have listened to Squeak. This wasn't a good idea. Wally's eco-buddies. As Wally found out, flight is much more complicated than just making a pair of Leonardo da Mousy's wings. Birds have very special adaptations which enable them to fly. Can you imagine what would happen if a bird had a heavy beak? It would constantly be doing nosedives towards the earth. Birds' beaks are made out of keratin, which is very lightweight. It's the same as you find in your fingernails. As the beak wears down, the keratin forms new layers so that a bird's beak always stays sharp and sleek. Feathers are another flight adaptation. Not only are they very lightweight, but the bird keeps them waterproof with preen oil. Can you imagine what would happen if the feathers became waterlogged with water when the bird bathed or got caught in the rain? The bird would become too heavy to fly. If you were to look at a bird's bone underneath a microscope, you'd see that it's not too different from this holy bread. There would be air pockets running right the way through the bone, making it much lighter than yours and mine. So it's not surprising that Wally had a crash landing and is feeling very battered and bruised. But if you think he's given up on flight, you can think again.